Hi, it's Jez here from Nigezza.co.uk, and here I am with another junk journal video. It's Wednesday, so it's junk journal day, and I'm just looking through, and I've been looking and seeing what needs finishing in the junk journal. The first signature is now complete, and there's just a few bits on this other signature that needs doing. So I've got some post-it notes, and I've written down the sort of things that I might want to do, and like that page, it's just a cluster, and then that will be finished. So I'm like, got a cluster there, and I'm thinking, nah, don't like it on that music page, so I shall use it in some other part of the junk journal. And then I find, oh yeah, like it there, so that's where that's going to get stuck. I'm just going to get some glue and stick it down. And I've decided that tag would be nice on the music page rather than do anything on the music page. So the tag I made, I don't think I've made that one on film actually, just a tag with a pocket and then some die cut tags that were in that paper pack that I've been using to make this, and I just distressed them up. So there I am, just putting some glue on there. I made that cluster. I think I filmed making that cluster, and I think that goes well there. So I'm just pointing out that lovely stamp set there from Stamping Up, which is now retired, but it'll never be leaving my stash. So that just needs a paper clip, and here I am looking for a paper clip, and I haven't got one. And then I'm thinking, oh, should I put some ribbon? And then I decide no, because I'm sticking the tag there. So now I'm just going to do the last page, and so I'm just reminding myself of what I did last time. Yeah, I did a little sort of belly band that only took up part of the page, and an envelope. So I had an envelope there ready, but I think it might actually be a bit too big, so I need a smaller one. And I'm looking through, and then I get one, and it's not an envelope, but it'll do. So it's just like a little pocket folder thing. I made that before, and so now I need something to make my belly band out of. So I'm looking through some 6x6 paper. I'm wanting some that's got a little bit of green in it to go with the butterfly, and then I find what I think is the perfect sheet really. So I need to just rip it and distress it a bit so that it fits in the journal sort of nicely. So here's my ripping ruler, and I've just got to rip a little bit off the edge, which is quite hard because it's only got a small stripe, that pattern, so I wanted to keep as much as possible, and then I realised that actually it's probably easier if I just pick it up and rip it. So having sort of weakened it a bit, that's sort of helped, and then the other side's much easier to rip, and so I'm just then working out where it's going to go. And so when I need to distress it, so I'm getting my little mat out there so I don't get my desk dirty, and I want some green, so I'm looking at my Tim Holtz, and I've got a greeny one there, can't remember what it's called, and so I'm just inking up those torn edges with the green, and I'm going to sort of go over the top a little bit to make it a bit more greener, and then I think maybe it needs a little bit of vintage photo as well, so get that, checking that I've got all the green off my sponge before I stick it in the vintage photo, and then we'll just sort of distress up around it, and then I'm thinking, oh, I think it might need a little bit more in the centre of the paper. It's all looking a little bit too new, so I decided to do a little bit of stamping. So I'm just stamping on that's like a typescript, putting that over it. Then I've got to decide where I want it on the page. I think that actually works really well on the page. So I was thinking of doing it higher, but then I'm covering the butterfly, which was the whole thing I wanted to see. So moving it down, and that'll work nicely. I'm going to put some green on that folder though, because it looked a little bit too clean. So this was hand stamped paper. I think I distressed this by using inks rather than coffee dyed, that one. So it's got a little bit of white in areas and I don't want it. So that's now done. I'm quite happy with the way that looks. So then I'm just going to glue it in, and because it's going to be a belly band, I'm going to glue down about 1/2 inch or a centimetre. So it's got a thick band of glue so that it can take the strain of having something sort of tucked around it rather than just a little bead. I felt it needed a little bit more. So yeah, just sticking that down, and then I can just put the folder over the belly band to hold in place. And then I'm thinking, maybe I'll tie in that foliage. So I'm using this much loved stamp from Stampin' Up. This is my favourite stamp set ever. So despite it retiring several years ago, I still use it quite a bit. I use it quite a lot in sort of shabby chic cards as well, because I really like all the elements in it. And so it's on my junk journal side of my craft room because I think they will look nice in junk journaling. So stamp that on. Can't actually see it that well, but I thought it was worth doing nevertheless. And then I'm gonna stick in my folder and cover up what I've just stamped, which was like, yeah, all right, that was pretty much a waste of time, wasn't it? So now I just want to distress around the edges of the book page here. So I'm using the green again to distress around that. So I'm really sort of tying in the green that's in the napkin that I sort of decoupaged on to that music paper that I used. So I'm going over, I'm not bothered that it might put a little bit of green on the other page because I'm thinking of doing some stenciling. So I was going to use a doily, and then I found this bit of vellum that I had die cut for a project ages ago, and I thought that would work as a nice stencil. So they're like cut out flowers, but they're kind of left in. So I'm just using that green ink to ink through and create some shapes on the page below, and I really quite like how it turned out. So I am just carrying on inking that up and putting it down. So it's quite a good way. The only thing is it is vellum, so although it's thick vellum, it's I did have a little bit of a rippage when I was doing this, so I don't think they would necessarily last forever, but they do the job for this. And I might, if I like it, create a stencil maybe with some window sheets, which would probably last a bit longer. But these bits will do for this. And I've got a couple more sheets because I made about 3 of those. So that's that. So I was very happy with that. And now I need a doily. So I know I've got some green doilies somewhere. And I'm trying to find them. So I remember this box that I had. I haven't labelled it. I really need to label it. And there are all the doilies that I was thinking about. So these are craft doilies. They're sort of Stampin' Up retired ones. And this set's still on clearance. It's about £1.70, something like that, for I think it's about 24 little doilies, and they're in different colours, and I think they'd work quite well. A little bit of distressing to make them look sort of vintage, and I think they'll go down really well on this page. So I'm going to use a bit of vintage photo on there to give it a little bit of distressing, so it looks less new. and then it's going to just be folded in half and stuck round that book page. So I'm just adding the colour, checking that I like it and that I think the colour goes well. And as I fold it, I notice that it's quite white on the inside, although I don't think you'd actually see it. I am going to just distress the other side, which shows that actually if you don't like the colour, you can just use the other side and reverse it and ink it up that way. So yeah, quite a good little bargain there, and I do believe I've ordered a second set, and I'm actually quite delighted now working out that actually I could use the other side, so I could make it any colour. Doesn't necessarily have to be the colourful side if I don't find a use for the other colours. So just sticking that on, and I think it goes really well with the stenciling that I've done there on the page as well. So quite delighted with that and the way it's turned out. So now I need to turn my attention to the cluster. So I've got, these are words that I've printed out using my printer and then coffee stained. I've got some old doily there. I've got a tag that I made by stamping onto a book page and punching out, and then I've got some of the vintage hymnal paper I've got there, and then there's some die cuts from that paper pack. So I'm just sort of putting them all together, seeing what they look like. Got a bit of coffee stain tracing paper there as well, just to sort of help sort of looking at it, deciding whether or not I like it, and I do. So I'm going to go and use that vintage photo to distress the edges of everything and make that brand new tag look more vintage, and then sort of inking up the edges there, and then sort of putting it on, ripping out the sentiment that was on that tag, and the second little butterfly to sort of put it together. And then I'm just sort of checking how it looks, and I think it's a little bit too big, so I need to just rip down that music to make it a better size for on the page, and then sort of trying it out again now, and seeing that proportionally is much better. So now it's just a matter of putting a little bit of green on it to tie in those green colours of the stenciling that I've done, so that it sort of kind of all blends together really well. So I've just got to glue them all together using collal glue there that's decanted into that little applicator there with the fine needle. So I do find I don't use quite so much glue that way, but enough for it to stick. And so there it is on the page. So now I'm just looking at this. Just needs the envelope decorating here, so I'm going to use some of that music paper that I'd used earlier, and I'm going to just distress that up there with a bit of vintage photo, and so I'm going around it, and then I'm picking out what I'm going to decorate it with. So I'm looking at matching up the napkin that I used on that belly band. So I'm looking through, thinking that I want one of these long bits and then maybe a tag, and they've got this like sort of pink rose on it, which I thought the colour would go quite nicely. So I was thinking of sticking it across there as a sort of a belly band, but I want to cover up the words. So I've got a thin bit of ribbon there, which of course needs distressing up. Can't just put in a new bit of ribbon. So I'm going to just rubbing it along, cutting it down so that it can stick on, and distressing that tag as well. And then I'm going to use some Fabutac to stick down the ribbon, and I need to put something down behind it. So I've got a bit of doily, which I'm going to sort of rip up to put on there. Then I'm thinking, oh, it needs a little bit of something behind the doily. So a bit of that tracing paper to show through the gaps in the doily. I think would work quite nice. So just sticking all that down. So that's basically what I did there to decorate the back of the envelope, and then I decorating the tag to go in the belly band in the same way that I decorated the belly band, but the memory on my phone did run out, so it is going to stop abruptly, I'm afraid, and the next bit I do without realising that it's not recording. So these things happen, don't they? So I do apologise for that. So what you missed was just me sort of finishing off that tag, as you can see I just stamped on the back, and here I am noticing that I hadn't inked the edge bits there, so just put a bit of ink on that, and then that goes in that belly band. And I'd created this by just sticking some of that coffee dyed tracing paper inside that frame, and then I've stamped the envelope and stuck those other elements on. And here I'm just trying to work out what I want to put on top of that tracing paper, so I'm just trying a few things out, and need to sort of line the pocket in something, so I'm trying to decide what to do, and I end up going with some music paper so that it kind of matches. So I'm sort of looking through there for a sheet of music paper that I have previously coffee dyed, and then I'm just using my eye ruler to get the right size for going inside that envelope using my ripping ruler. So glad I found that ruler again, and I should just check in. It needs a little bit more off. I think it's slightly too wide, and then I just need to distress that up. Even though it's coffee dyed, I always like to ink the edges before I put it in, and then that makes a nice lining to that envelope. And then I decide to give it a little bit more distress by putting some creases in and inking down those, and then using my little bottle of colour glue, I'm going to stick it in place. Light wet glue gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and you need that when you're stuffing it down an envelope that's quite a tight fit, and getting sticky fingers. So I've got this envelope that I've made before, which I thought would look nice flapped over there, and so I'm just sticking that so I can stick round the frame, which is quite nice. And then I'm going to spend ages thinking about the words. So I want to decorate the flap of the envelope as well as that bit where the tracing paper is. So I've got these words that I've printed myself onto coffee dyed paper, and I just picked some random words that I thought might be quite good, and then I found this. I stamped these words as a stamp, and it says hugs, prayers, love, and so here I am, I'm thinking, oh, I've got washi tape. Yeah, no, that doesn't go. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking to see if I've got some more of the sort of pink rose stuff to see if I could match that up. So flicking through, found the page with some roses on. Wasn't quite what I wanted. Found a little square bit, and then we'll go back and we'll maybe nick one of those decoupage roses and see if we like the look of that. And just playing with it, and then I think it's a bit square, might look better in the corner there as a cluster. So that's what I think I'm going to do, and that sort of ties in the pinkness from the napkin and that. And then I remember my coloured doilies, and there's a bit of pink in that, so that would be nice layered up. Needs a bit of distressing, looks a bit too new, so going around with vintage photo that is that I'm using there, and I then think, oh, it needs something behind. So I remember I've got a 2 1/4 inch circle punch, so I think it's 2.5 inch actually, it's a real big one, so that fitted nicely. Give that a bit of distress to go underneath, because although it's a vintage book and it's quite brown, it needs a bit more, always needs a bit more distressing. And that, I'm just then thinking I need to rough up the edges of that. So that's one of those rough edge tools. You can use your scissors and sometimes get a better result with my scissors. But I'd found this tool in me sorting out, so I thought, oh, let's use it. So now I can distress those edges. And then, of course, I need to add some colour to the actual die cut itself as well, because it looks a bit too new. So then I think, oh, it needs a bit more. I do love this tracing paper that's been coffee dyed. Gives you a nice crinkle, gives you a nice old effect. And then, of course, I need to layer up some other things. And then I need to sort out my words. So I go for that stamped image, and I do end up just ripping single words. Them all together is too much, so I just do a single word, and then work out, spend a bit of time faffing, deciding on what I want to layer behind it. A little bit rip corner there, to give a little bit of the, it's got little pink roses on it, so I thought that sort of helped to bring out the pink in the page and match up the roses. So a bit more ripping, bit more inking. My fingers are terribly dirty now. And and sort of I'm trying to sort of stick it down so that when the envelope flap is shut, you can still see the words. And it's sort of nice, thoughtful words. They're sort of hopes and prayers and hugs and love, and which is quite good sentiments for right now. We're in uncertain times, so that's why I quite liked it. And it is my 2020 journal, so quite appropriate words for it. So just inking that up, and I do in a minute get my stamp out because I feel it needs a little bit more. And then I have this bright idea, I could stamp on the doily, put some words on the doily. So as I'm looking around, that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I end up doing, stamping onto the doily. Quite like these doilies. They're on clearance, they're really cheap. So I've actually bought another packet. And you can use the other side that's white and ink that up, so you don't have to use the coloured side, although I think it does work really well in this page. So they're just sticking now all the layers together, and then I think the page needs a tag. So I've got that punch, the punch, and that's a bit of book paper that was backed onto some coffee dyed paper to give it a little bit of extra strength. So I sort of put it on, and I think it needs a little bit more. So find a bit of lace. Yeah, we'll stick some lace on that. And so I'm going to use some Fabutac to glue that lace down even, and distress the edges a bit. And then I think, I've got a little bit of that satin ribbon still, and that will tie it in with the ribbon that's on the tags that I've done. So we'll stick that on as well, and that just makes a nice little tab for the page. I haven't done tabs on every page, but I have got them dotted around the book, and I do love this punch for that. Don't ask me how much I paid for it. It was ridiculous, but I do love it. So some things I get really cheap, like the doilies, and some things I pay a little bit more for. It swings and roundabouts, isn't it? So that is just the finishing touches there to that page, and just got to layer up my word, and then we're nearly done, and then there's not a lot left to do. So I'm really excited. I've printed some photos, and I'm really excited to be able to sort of get started on this junk journal when I've done. And I reckon be done by the end of the month. That's really exciting. So there we have it. So I will put pictures on my blog if you want to check those out, and hopefully you'll join me again next week, where I'll do some more to finish this off. Thanks for joining me.